Hello, fellow gamers and all of their friends. It's me, MK, back from a really long hiatus, but that's not important. I won't bother you with that. I am in a new house, so please ignore any odd sounds. I haven't really nailed down where I want to record my audio from. So, please forgive me if there's any weird sounds as I work on getting that nailed down. However, you're not here for that. If you clicked on this video, it's because you are interested in a casual gamer's review of Death's Door. Alright, first off, let me just say I absolutely loved this game. It's adorable, it's cute, but it also has a bit of a challenge to it. So it was basically right up my alley. But be aware, this is my opinion. It's heavily biased on things that I like. But that's why you're here. You're here for my review. So to start off, you play as a little crow. The story is pretty neat and entertaining. So death is no longer around. Instead, there's this guy called the Lord of Doors who sends out these little immortal crows to kill people before they get too old, because if you get too old you lose your mind and go insane. So a little bit of Dark Souls-y storytelling there. I won't spoil any of the story, just go play it, it's amazing. But tomfoolery happens, you learn kind of the mystery of what's going on with the world, and you, as the little immortal crow who can't die and is going around trying to eliminate these bigger souls that are older than they are supposed to be, you just play and explore and basically go through a very Dark Souls-y storyline. So to start off, this game is not very long. I had put together about 3 hours of video gameplay to make with this video, but me and my dumb self forgot to finish the recording of my second playthrough, and so I don't have any of that footage. So this footage you'll be watching my review on is about 80% through my first gameplay. So there might be some mild spoilery stuff in here, but there's nothing very major. It's mostly just boss fights. If that matters to you, I'll make sure I pay attention to what's on screen, and I'll try to cut it out if I feel like it's important. Otherwise, watch the pretty crow do his thing and listen to my slightly nasally voice while I try to tell you why you should play this game. So point number one, like I said, this game isn't very long. I was able to beat the whole thing in about 10 hours, but it was 10 hours well spent. There's 4 main areas. Each one has kind of a main boss. Each area is divided into 2 sub-areas. So this one, for example, is the Overgrown Ruins, that's what it's called. But this area, the Overgrown Ruins, you go through and it leads you to the Flooded Kingdom, which then leads you to the boss of this area. And it's that same way with all 3 zones. Now each zone has different enemy types, there's different puzzles to solve, but what is similar across all 3 areas is you will go through the area without the necessary power-up to get through it, which was fun. There's a little that Metroidvania aspect where there are certain areas that are blocked because you don't have the power-up necessary to get to that area, which you get as you progress through the zone, and then you can go back to either this zone or another zone, and you can get into some of these different areas. That was fun, And also the way they worked around not having your power-up is each area had a way to fulfill said requirement without the use of one of the power-ups. Now, what I mean by that is, for example, in this area, you're watching me use this little claw hook thing. I didn't get that until after the last area, but on my little D-pad symbol, you can see on the right the image of the bomb. That flower right there acted in the place of the bomb. So if you whacked that flower while standing next to this section of the wall, the flower would then send a projectile towards you that would explode, so you'd have to get out of the way, but then it would give you access to some of these shortcuts and to some of the other areas of the map that you were in. Now, it didn't give you access to every single secret and shortcut. Some of these you had to come back later with the actual power-up, but the idea was each area kind of turned into a little bit of a puzzle, where if you wanted to make life easier on yourself and gain access to some of these shortcuts, you would have to kind of do some exploring and some experimenting, because they don't really tell you what some of these things do. I didn't realize that you could blow up the piece of the wall with the explosive projectile that the flower kicks out until a little while later when I had done it by accident. So it's not overly complicated. The puzzles are anyway. So if you were a little kid trying to play this, you might not get it right away, but it's not so difficult that a child wouldn't get it. But likewise, as an adult, it wasn't like hand-holdy, so I didn't feel like the game was treating me like a child. Some were more obvious, some were a lot more like you had to figure it out yourself. Now, that's most of the exploration. One of my big issues with the exploration is your little crow only moves at 1 speed. So in the later game, when you're going back through some of these other areas, trying to do some extra exploring or looking for collectibles or doing some side quests, it can be kind of tiresome to traverse the entire map at 1 speed. But like I said, the game isn't very long to begin with, so it didn't really bother me all that much. That's more of just a little nitpick. Now on to the gameplay. Combat is very simple. You have an attack, you have a dodge, and you have magic, which comes in the form of your little discoverable tools. Attack changes based on the weapon you're holding. There are a handful of different weapons you can use. Some of them deal more damage but attack slower. Some of them deal more damage, but instead of doing like a 3-hit combo, you only have a 2-hit combo. Weapons can't be improved. Like you don't level up the weapons. However, you can level up your magic, and magic is really simple. You use the D-pad to pick which magic spell you want to use, whether it's the arrow, the fire, the bomb, or the chain hook. All of these magic attacks deal damage and can be used in combat, and they can be leveled up or improved, but they also help you to open up secrets and traverse through the maps, like I mentioned before. Your dodge is just a simple roll. It doesn't get any fancier, you can't change it, but it does grant you iframes on some things. Mostly just attacks. Any kind of environmental hazard, you don't get iframes for, and I'm pretty sure they did that on purpose, because it adds to some of the puzzles that I don't want to spoil, so I won't explain exactly what I'm talking about. But that's really it for the gameplay. You just roll around, attack when you have a chance. There isn't a block, so you can't like parry or defend. It's go in, get your hits in, dodge out, maybe cast a few spells, go back in, get some more hits, dodge back out. So when it comes down to gameplay, it's very simple, but I kind of liked that because it didn't have a ton of things that I needed to learn. I literally just jumped in, the game said this is how you play, and then that's how it was for the rest of the game. As for your little crow, up in the top left there, you have the amount of health that I have, which is represented by that top bar, and then the bar below it represents the magic, and they're divided because each little orb dictates how many times you can use certain spells. Some of them take more than one, some of them, like the chain hook, don't cost any, so a little bit of stratagem there if you're just mixing the magic into your combat. Be wary that they recharge with each hit, and not necessarily on enemies. There are objects in each map which count as like contactable objects, like that mushroom right there, and those will recharge your magic as well. However, the only way to recharge or recover your health is to find one of the pots that you can put these seeds that you collect throughout the maps into, and it gives you a little healing flower. Now these flowers are one-time use, because once you pick it, the flower wilts and then you can't use it again until you die or leave the area. However, it does heal all of your health. So if you have one hit left and you eat one of these flowers, you have full health now. So there's a little bit of stratagem in that, where sometimes if you have enough health, you can skip a flower and push on. Because they're not plentiful, they're very well placed throughout the map. So sometimes you might want to pick one if you know that there's a big group of enemies ahead of you, or if you're heading into like a boss area. My phone just went off. But vice versa, you can also leave one there and keep going if you know that you might be able to make it to the next one, or you're going to leave that one there to pick when you come back. So there's a little bit of stratagem. I actually ended up skipping a bunch of them in the first area because I wasn't taking a whole lot of damage, and then ended up just going back later and planting the flowers so that I can get one of the trophies. So healing is very much up to you and depends on whether you want to use the health going into a fight or leave it there to heal after the fight. Cool. Next point we're going to talk about are the boss fights. There are 5 main boss fights, I believe, if I'm counting correctly, and then a handful of like mini boss fights. This one, for example, is a mini boss that actually will give you extra power on your chain hook ability. But the bosses are all very different and very entertaining, and I kind of wish there was more of them. But each one has different phases, not so much like a Dark Souls boss where you go through one health bar and then they come back with another one. It's all worked into the same health bar, and you don't actually get to see their health bar. All of the boss's health is kind of portrayed by their character cracking. So the more cracked they are, the more damage that has been dealt to them, and the closer they are to dying. But as they get more and more cracked, they'll start to mix up their attack patterns. They'll start dealing out different attacks. Some of them, like the first boss, the Witch of the Urns, will start adding different effects to their attacks. So you can't just go in swinging like you do with a lot of the regular enemies, because as you fight them, they change the way they attack you. But again, they're not overly difficult. Don't take that to mean they're easy. I did die a handful of times as I learned their attack patterns and learned how their attacks evolve throughout the fight. I beat that Urn boss really quickly. I actually beat him on my first try. But he's a side boss, an extra boss. Some of the main bosses killed me probably 2 or 3 times at minimum, and like 10 to 12 times at maximum, while I tried to figure out how to beat him. So would I recommend them for younger people? Maybe, as long as they don't get frustrated easily. But as an adult, you probably won't find them extremely hard. Like, they're nothing close to a Dark Souls boss. But they're still fun to play and very satisfying to beat. So, this is probably going to be one of my shortest reviews ever because the game isn't very long and it's not very complicated. But for a free game that I got with PlayStation Plus last month that took me at most 10 hours to beat all the way through, finding all of the discoverable, collectible, hidden things, leveling up my character as far as I wanted to, finding all of the health and magic bonuses, and basically just being the completionist that I am, I really enjoyed this game. I would totally recommend it. I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10. There were a few little nitpicky things that they could have either added or changed, and I genuinely hope that these developers either make some more or make another game, because I really enjoyed it. As a casual gamer making a review, if you're looking to get this game for somebody you know, it looks very childish, but like I said before, it's probably not for younger kids. It is fairly difficult. And if you're trying to get it for somebody who's looking more for like your die-hard Soulsborne Metroidvanias, it might not be for them either. It's kind of this perfect little fit in between for somebody who would like a challenge but doesn't want to just like dig out their eyes because it's so hard, and somebody who's looking to play, you know, anywhere between 10 and 20 hours worth of their time. Very fun, highly recommend, and this has been another Casual Gamer review. Hope you guys liked it. If you have a game you guys would like me to play and do a review on, mention it in the comments. If you have your own opinions of the game, I did a review forever ago. It was a comparison review between Hollow Knight and Ender Lilies, and I actually had a rather enjoyable conversation with somebody who disagreed with some of my opinions on that video. So I would love to have a discussion down in the comments of your guys' opinion on this game. I would really appreciate it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you feel so inclined. And as always, stay awesome.